Chad has mentioned in the opening, we lost a great personal friend, a great Philly sports fan, a good man. Happened to be, he owned the best sports memorabilia store in the Delaware Valley, Carl's Cards and Collectibles. When we learned the passing of Carl Henderson on Saturday morning, what a shocker.
Yeah, that news caught just about everybody off guard. Yes, Carl had some recent health issues, but he seemed to be doing well, recovering nicely. As I said at the open, he did his This Fan's View podcast last Wednesday evening. He was putting out his daily Facebook posts in the morning, right through Friday, and then, that unfortunate news on Saturday. Bill, how long did you know Carl?
Right, 20-ish years, 22 years, something like that. I was actually talking and texting with Carl on Thursday night.
Oh, wow.
And he's feeling good. As you mentioned, he was having some problems. He had his heart work done. He was feeling good. Looking forward to the journey that comes with, change diets, exercise, all the things that come with heart work. And darn, I got a call at 9:00 on Saturday morning, and it was a shocker.
Yeah, you let me know right away, which I thank you for, but man, that hurt. My first time meeting Carl was, I know the exact date, December 21st of 2014. It was
I was there.
You were. I'm going to get to that. Donnie Jones, John Dornbos, and Cody Park were in his store for an autograph signing, the Eagles special team guys. So, I got those guys to sign a mini helmet. And lo and behold, Bill, you did indeed show up. And we got this legendary picture with Carl. As you'll remember, Bill, for much of the first couple of years of us doing our show, Carl was a semi-sponsor for us in that he would donate a signed picture of a Philly athlete or coach or whatever that we would give away on the show in exchange for a mention. I think Danny B got a bunch of those somehow.
He did. Yep.
Yeah. So, we appreciate Carl for helping us in our first couple of years of doing our show. And then, he started doing his own podcast, I guess 2 or 3 years after that.
Yep. And we actually had him on a handful of times through the early years of our show, and always great. The thing about Carl that probably, Chet, that I will never forget is, you got a Super Bowl coming up this week between New England and Seattle. And if you said, hey, Carl, what do you think about the Super Bowl? He'd say, man, let's talk about the Phillies roster. Let's talk about spring training. He loved Philly sports. No matter what it was, he would talk Philly sports with you, and always insightful, always a fan, always positive about Philly sports. And he was as proud of being a Philly sports fan as he was of having his store. And of course, his family being on top. It was a heck of a guy.
Well, as noted in his obit, Carl was a Bartram High School grad, a huge sports fan who got into the collectibles world, sold his treasured 1969 Camaro to start a business dedicated to sports cards and collectibles. So, he turned what was a hobby into a successful business that is now in its 31st year. And Bill, you mentioned we've had him on our show many times. Well, back in 2015, that summer, when we were just a year and a quarter into doing our show, it was audio only back then, by the way. We had Carl on as Carl's Cards was about to celebrate its 20th anniversary. I was actually not on that show. I was off that week for some reason or another, but you were on with Carl. You kept him on for an extended period, and he talked about the early days of his business and more.
It started out very small, quaint little store that I thought wasn't going to last the 3-year lease that I had signed. And before I knew it, the 3 years was up and we were moving down the street to a much larger store, and we needed to have an attraction. We needed to have a guest. So we brought in Bernie Perrant as our guest to open the new store, free autograph. We rocked Havertown. It was awesome. And we started doing this whole autograph thing.
When you started out, did you start out more as a card store, and it kind of evolved into memorabilia and autographs as the business has sort of evolved everywhere as far as that went?
Pretty much, the card thing was in the tail end of, being so popular, because that was 1995. So you had already had the big run, when the cards were hot and everybody had to have them, had to buy them. It was an investment and so on and so forth. So I always dabbled in the autograph things because I did shows And, autographed guests were always there. So I was always buying new inventory and just planning for the future, I guess.
But now your wife Sue is an important part of your show, your store, and I know your daughter Lauren also helps you out a lot, and she's connected with the Cole Hamels Foundation, I understand. And does she work both of those jobs with you and keep this thing running?
She's a huge part of all the marketing, the internet, all of that sort of stuff. And Sue, she's the first person everybody gets to meet as soon as they walk in the door. Especially the day, of a signing to buy a ticket or to be greeted. So yeah, it's truly a family run business. I've got a couple of friends, who help me out all the time, but it's become such a big part of the business. The autograph thing has it's evolved into, the daily business. Certainly appreciate you having me on. I can't believe 20 years has passed that fast because we've enjoyed every day of it.
There you go.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, Chad, I probably never told this story, but this was something between me and Carl. Von Hayes was 5 for 1, right? Oh, 5 for 1 was his nickname. Well, I used to kid Carl all the time. He could bring in the 64 Phillies or the old non-Hall of Fame Flyers, and 20 years later, 30 years later, right? He would still bring them in, and it was 1 for 20, 2 for 35. So I always called him 2 for 35. I say, hey, 2 for 35. You got the best model going. You could sell 2 for 35 to anybody they wrap around your store. And so we always got a laugh out of that. That was his business model there for a long time, and a very good one too.
And during that interview that you had with him on that particular show, the 20th anniversary year, 2015, you put him on the spot and asked him about his favorite guest or two during his first 20 years in the business. And he said, I'll give you a 1 and a 1A, Chuck Bednarik and Bernie Perrant. He had Bernie on many times. In fact, here's just a sample of the hundreds and hundreds of guests that he had in for signings over the years. The aforementioned Concrete Charlie, Chuck Bednarik, the legendary Bruno Sammartino. Man, I wish I could have been there for that. Lefty, just a couple of months back, Allen Iverson, Jason Kelsey, Dr. J, Brian Dawkins, and yes, Bernie, many, many times. Terrific work by Carl and his family, on putting together all those great events, plus outings at Reading Phillies games and the charity work that Carl did. So, yeah, he's going to be missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the outpouring from the people you saw on social media, how many people's lives that he touched just by going to their store or being part of an event or something that they remember. Because Carl was one of those guys that I was talking to somebody else about this too. If Carl knew, like I'm a Collingdale guy, right, a Delaware County guy, if somebody came in his store and he was always talking to him, oh, where are you from? Oh, I'm from Collingdale. Oh, Bill Furman? He always connect, and then he'd call you, say, hey, so-and-so was in the store. They said they knew you. And it didn't matter if it was me or whoever. He had all these connections that he would put people together that knew people.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. That was his personality. And, the business is a hard business to have to begin with, but it's those connections that are absolutely critical. And Carl had so many of them.
And of course, Carl always loved February and March because he and his fam would make the trip down to Clearwater, stay for a couple or sometimes even 3 weeks, I believe. I met up with Carl down there in Clearwater on at least 2 occasions, maybe 3 over the last 10 years. Man, he's going to miss that. The family, they may.
And that's what we were talking. That's what we were talking about last Thursday night. Actually, was when he was going to try to come and all that, and was he okay to come after just having his artwork done.
Yeah. And for people who didn't see the obituary information, there will be a viewing Monday evening at the John Stretch Funeral Home in Havertown, 5 to 9 p.m. Then a church visitation and service Tuesday morning at Our Mother of Good Counsel in Bryn Mawr, starting at 9:30. Again, our condolences to Carl's wife of 43 years, Sue, daughter Lauren, and son-in-law Anthony, and Carl's mother, Faye, plus all the guys that worked with Carl, like John and Bill, Skip over the years, Steve. So he will certainly be missed.
Absolutely. And, Chad, I'm going to look at it this way. I'm going to miss talking to him, but I'm going to smile when I think of him. And that little sound bites you just showed of the interview, I will remember that. I will cherish that. It was great. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and rest in peace, Carl Henderson.